flower friends, it's Nicole from Flower Hill Farm, and in today's video we are covering a couple things. First of all, how is everybody doing? We had a tremendous weather event across most of the country. Here we had a deep freeze. We got down to about -22 and Fahrenheit, and then we got about a foot of snow immediately after that. And I know in some places there were some severe ice storms, power outages. Some people just saw a little bit of ice, but some people saw a lot of ice. And I saw greenhouses all over my Instagram feed were crushing down. Fortunately, we just had really cold temperatures and some snow, and we didn't get any of those icy conditions like so many of you guys have. So that said, I am gonna take you guys out there, not with video because it was just so cold, and honestly, my face is red because I was just outside feeding the chickens and it was -7 this morning when I, doing the chickens and stuff. It's just cold. So I didn't videotape out there, my fingers wouldn't allow it, but I did snap a few pictures so we can talk about some of the damage and some of what's doing well out in the hoop house because of the severe cold. Then we're going to take a look down in the basement. We're going to take a look at the seedlings and the ranunculus that I have started down there. And then we are going to be starting some new seeds. Something I've never grown from seed before, but something I want to learn how to do really well. So we're gonna do that in today's video. First though, let's take a look at some of those hoop house pictures. Now in the hoop house named Henry, we have a double layer of frost cloth over everything. I don't have heat out there. I don't have ventilation. There's no electricity out there. And things have done pretty well in the past with that double layer of frost cloth. I did go out there yesterday and I saw the campanula was looking unbothered, didn't care that it got -22. The feverfew was also looking fantastic. The feverfew is a perennial, and so is the campanula, really. The nigella, honestly, the nigella I think has more rodent damage than cold damage, but I always find that the greens on the nigella shrivel up, they don't look good, but they always bounce back as soon as the temperatures start to warm up. And I probably lost 25% of it, but I think that that's due to rodents chewing it versus the cold temperatures. And the same with the delphinium. The delphinium, which is toxic, but the chipmunk and the mice, they don't care. They don't care, and they're unbothered by chewing it and eating it. I do see some of the delphinium have little baby sprouts coming from the center, and then the chewed leaves obviously are gone, but also they're brown. And honestly, I think that that's cold damage, but I know that it might regenerate itself and send up new shoots. So I'm hopeful for the delphinium. And worst case scenario, I have more room for ranunculus, right? Worst case scenario, I have more room for poppies, ranunculus, and stock, because right now I don't really have a lot of that room left. Anyway, and that's what the hoop house looks like. Oh, and the pansies. Okay, so I planted pansies, I think they're ballerina pansies, as an experiment because I'm not supposed to be able to overwinter those. They are not for my zone. I believe they're zone 5. But I thought, let me trial. I was inspired by my friend Galena at Micro Flower Farm, who has been growing an awfully lot of beautiful pansies for cutting, and said, I'm gonna try this. So that was the first thing that the chipmunks and the mice ate a couple of months ago when I originally planted them. I think within 2 weeks of planting them, they were chewed to the ground. They started to grow back, and now they're not dead. They're still chewed, but they are regrowing from the center. So the ones where the chipmunks or whatever, the mice chewed it down way too much, they're not gonna bounce back. But the ones that were only chewed down like 75%, they are bouncing back. And I think they just survived a -22. We don't typically get more colder than that. So I'm excited because I think that means that the pansy experiment is going to be successful. Cross your fingers that the chipmunks don't rekindle their romance with. Okay, what else? That's it. There's campanula, feverfew, nigella, pansies, and delphinium. Yeah, I have not planted anything else, but I do have stuff growing right now in the basement that we can go take a look at right now. Oh, this is a peel and stick wallpaper that I, because of the storms that we had, guys, I've been recording podcast episodes, a couple of them a week, because I'm going out of town in February and in March. And I have been like just cranking out episodes. So I didn't want to have to leave my house and go to town every time I needed to record a podcast episode. So I brought all of my gear, like my fancy gear. I brought it all home. That way, if I'm home, this table that my camera's on is not steady. Sorry, the microphone's very heavy. If I'm home and I got to record a podcast episode, I can just come in here. This is the spare bedroom. You guys know this the purple walls that I used to record in years ago. I just threw this Lowe's peel and stick wallpaper. I checked the other day because people were asking me where I got it from. I paid $30 for it. It was like clearance to $7.95 or something the other day. But it's just peel and stick and super easy to put. I think it took me 10 minutes to put up. I only did like a 6 foot wide berth of it, and it doesn't go all the way to the ground either. It's cut off right there. So it's just a box for me to record with prettiness in the background. Okay, let's go in the basement and check out the seedlings and the ranunculus that are showing green. Okay, lighting is worse down here. I apologize, but this is my one shelf that I have the lights on, and I want to show you guys. In the last video, I started the stock champagne. Look at this. Look at this germination. There is only one, oh wait, nope, there's one there. There's only one block that didn't germinate, and I'm pretty sure it didn't have a seed. I can't find the remnants of the seed. Even where it doesn't look like there's one right here, there is one. It's coming. Right next to this stock, we have the Lysianthus that I started just a couple of weeks ago. This was the one I had already started in the video. It's hard to see, but there's the green. It's growing up, guys. They're growing up. The germination is still happening on this. I do have quite a bit of germination, but there are some that have not sprouted yet, but you can tell they're on their way. Like you can see this one right here in the middle on the bottom. The green is just poking out of that one. And even over here, a couple more that are just starting to emerge. Okay, now I've got 4 trays here of ranunculus that I started already. Approximately 400, approximately. So I'm gonna go ahead and bring you the trays. Oh yeah, okay. My water softening system is beeping. It needs something. It needs to be reset. So the annoying beeping in the background is my water softening system. So right here, I've got my new labels. So this side of the tray is iceberg, and then I have a nice trench to separate iceberg from, let's see, who's this? Oh, Grand Pastel. So that one's a little bit later to start, but I can see they're all sprouting. Now, not only do they sprout little tiny specks where the stems are gonna be growing, they're also forming roots underneath here. And I used to start them in individual like 72 plug trays, but I found that this method, the roots they don't get root bound. They just keep growing. And so when I take these apart, the roots are free flowing and they're not all knotted up, and they're really easy and quick to separate from each other. I've never had a problem with the roots getting tangled, and this is just my favorite way to do it. I just love it. I've been doing this method for a few years. I've got La Dolce Vita. This is a new variety from Awnings. It's a mix of all of their Grand Pastel, like not just Grand Pastel, but all their pastel colors. I sold out of this when I sold these corms in the springtime, so I'm really looking forward to seeing, and I'm gonna pull one out. I'm always gonna regret this, but you see how this only has a little bit of green on top? Look what's happening underneath. So all that activity, and it's not getting root bound. Okay, putting it back. Love, love, love. Cannot wait to see La Dolce Vita. In this tray, I have Bianco Sfumato. I also had a ton of these that I sold, and then on the other side, I actually ended up only with a small amount of Levante Rosa for myself. I oversold on my website, and I only ended up with like 25. I felt so bad. I had oversold. Honestly, I'm missing a bag. I have a bag of 500 Levante Rosa anemone corms. They're MIA. I have no idea where they are. So I had oversold. I always keep like 100 or 200 of each variety for myself. I oversold, and so I ended up just keeping about 25 Levante Rosas for myself. Grave error, grave error. So we'll have to see how that goes. Now these guys are ready to plant out now. But I'm not doing that because the forecast for the next 10 days, we barely get out of the teens and it's in the single digits or negative every night. So I'm waiting probably until I get back from Seattle. I go to Seattle in about 3 weeks. So either right before I go to Seattle, right after I go to Seattle, depending on the 10-day at that time. And then I have this final tray of, ooh, guys, I'm so excited about this one. This one is Cloney Pon Pon. This is, I think, Cloney Pon Pon candy. I think that's what it is. But look, something must have been in my seed starting, like in my Vermont. No, this was Pro Mix. Something must have been in my Pro Mix because I have all these little rogue seedlings growing up here. It almost looks like dill. I'm not sure. I might let a couple of them grow up just to see what they are. There's quite a few in here. But I have, you know, who knows? There's sometimes a mouse will get in a bag and bury some seeds, so we don't know what they are. Oh, sorry, I hit my tripod. And then on the third shelf down, technically fourth shelf, I don't have anything on top. Although I could put something, I could put lights hanging from the ceiling and wow, I could do that. I could have an entirely new row. Anyway, it's unnecessary right now. I've got 5 more trays, 6, 7 more trays of Lisianthus down here. They're just starting to sprout. Let me bring the camera down to them. Okay, this is the heat mat. So there's only 6. So there's 4 down here. I thought there were 5. 4 trays of Lisianthus that I started. They're just starting to poke little tiny green. You can see, I mean, it's literally microscopic. You can see that these are starting to crack, and you can see little, like that's a tiniest green. Wow. So they're just starting to crack open. I'm spritzing them with my water spritzer. These are just in the air temperature, which is about 55. Let me see. I'm not seeing any germination yet on these ones. So because they're colder, they're going to be taking a little bit longer to germinate. But I'll probably swap them out with some of the trays that are on the heat. I mean, this is really silly. I have multiple heat mats. Like I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I've got 6 same size heat mats over there. I just don't have it on the shelf with an insulation. So it's really silly of me not to put it on heat. But I guess this is another way of spacing out my Lisianthus harvest. Yeah, I'm gonna get them on heat mats. That's something I need to do. Okay, those are, other than a few other trays of stock, which look exactly like this, that is all I have down here for seedlings right now. But I am gonna start more seeds today. I'm feeling like I wanna sit down for this, so let's go back upstairs. I have notes, and I wanna refer to my notes because I don't wanna forget anything. Okay, right now I spend tens of thousands of dollars on seedlings every year for the garden center. I am not exaggerating. It literally costs tens of thousands of dollars to bring in baby plants, to start hanging baskets, 4-inch pots, all of the perennials. There are so many costs involved to running a garden center that I really haven't spoken that much about. But when I tell you that it's tens of thousands of dollars, it's tens of thousands of dollars. And something that I would like to do to try to save money and maybe fill more of my time in the winter months is I would like to start more of the plants that I sell at the nursery from seed. And part of this experiment is deciding whether or not I want to invest in a vacuum seeder because that makes life a lot easier. But I don't want to invest in something that's going to cost between $1,000 and $2,000 if I'm not going to use it. If I can't successfully grow X, Y, and Z from seed for the nursery. So my experiment right now is to try to grow geraniums from seed. Now I order in a couple $1,000s worth of geraniums every year. Geraniums are not cheap. They're expensive, but I have seen other people grow them from seed. Maybe not some varieties, maybe some are not grown from seed, but I am going to do some experimenting with that. So I found some seeds and I am trying to start, it's called Maverick Orange, just like my hat. Orange is one of my favorite colors of geraniums. They're shockingly beautiful. I remember last year when I had a few customers come in on a lunch break. They walked into the first greenhouse, and right after the white geraniums on the left-hand side, I had probably, I think I got in like 150 orange ones. And they were like, "Are those orange geraniums?" And I'm like, "Indeed they are." So they're one of my favorite. And then I also grabbed the Maverick Apple Blossom geraniums to try to see if I could grow a couple of different colors from seed to flower to 4-inch pot size. So there isn't a ton of information out there about growing garden center items from seed, so I decided to trial and error it myself. Maverick geraniums typically take, according to Johnny's, between 90 and 115 days before they're flowering. So I decided it's right about now. I have found, this will be my 4th spring at the garden center, excuse me. So I have found that the things that are in bloom are the things that sell. That's just the way it is. 2 years ago, my sun patients bloomed 2 weeks late. So they didn't bloom till after Mother's Day. I had so many sun patients left over, so many. And you know what was selling? The gazanias and the osteospermums, or the daisies. Everyone loves them. So if they look like a daisy and they're flowering, people are gonna be buying them. And this past year, I said, well, I can't have that. I can't have that happen again. So I ordered my sun patients in I think a week or 2 before, and they were beautifully blooming for that first 3 weeks in May when everyone's coming to the shop. And I literally sold out of sun patients. If it's blooming, it will sell. So I'm trying to get these geraniums to be in bloom when I open in May, because it's very easy to deadhead a geranium. You can have it, if you're getting blooms too early, you can snap them off and more will come. That's just the way geraniums work. In fact, one of the tasks that my mother-in-law always takes on every year is deadheading all the geraniums, because they bloom and they turn brown and they need to be deadheaded so that they're looking their best for when the customers come in. So that said, I'm on the late end to starting these because I just got them in. So these might not bloom until mid-May, but I just want to see if I can make it happen. I just want to see. Okay, luck would have it because I found the ball culture sheet for growing geraniums from seed. In fact, it's the actual culture sheet for growing Maverick from seed. So it's got a ton of information. I'll pop it up on the screen. It's just loaded with when to do this, what to do, when to pinch. Do you pinch? Do you put growth regulator? Do you do a fungicide? It's got all of that information on the culture guide. And if you look hard enough, many plants have culture guides. I know Cicada has one for Lisianthus that I reference all the time. Johnny's has one for Lisianthus. But if you can find a culture guide, that is where you're going to find the best information from growing from seed, if you're not getting it from me, because I'm getting it from the culture guides. So what it's telling me on this culture sheet is that the plug grow time, which is what I usually buy in, is 4 to 5 weeks. Okay. Well, I usually get my first load of geraniums the first week in March, which is 4 to 5 weeks from now. So I'm hoping that if I start these from seed now, they'll be equal to the size that I get the plugs in, because I'm not relying on this. I still have thousands of geranium plugs coming the first week in March and the last week in March. So that I get my hanging basket geraniums the first week in March, and then I get my 4-inch ones, the ones that I put in 4-inch pots that people buy individually. I get those the last week in March. You split things up because you can't do everything all at once, and you don't want the 4-inch ones to get too big, get root bound, and they're not going to do as well for the customer once they take it from the store. So anyway, I'm hoping that these will be, okay to start from seed. So I'm going to try it. So I'm not starting these in soil blocks or Swift blockers because, and you can, I'm sure, but this does say that the seed should be covered. And when I'm working with a seed that needs to be covered, I prefer to use these. These are, I think they're 51 trays actually. Yeah, they're 51 split trays. And I purchased some perennials from Farmer Bailey in these last year. So this is what I'm using, and I'm using actually, I think I'm gonna use Pro Mix because I like to save my Vermont compost for soil blocking. I'm gonna go fill these up and let's plant some geranium seeds. We have Pro Mix in the trays. My hands are freezing because my soil was in the garage and it's 26 degrees out there, but this is not frozen. It was nice. So let's get these guys open. I've never even seen a geranium seed. I'm gonna start with orange first for obvious reasons. They don't seem that big. They don't seem tiny either. Oh, hold on. They're stuck to the stickiness. So they're not bad. They're not like a Snapdragon. It's kind of nice for seeding. So the vacuum seeders I was talking about, I think the initial like vacuum seeder itself is like $700 or something, depending on the brand that you go with. But then you have to buy plates and you have to have them custom made depending on what trays you're using and what seeds you're using, because the seed size has to be equivalent to the holes that you use with the vacuum trays. So the expenses add up. I just want to make sure I didn't drop any. Okay, so I've got my little bowl of seeds. Actually, you can see right in the bottom. So I've got my little dish of seeds. I've got my toothpick. And I'm just going to plug away at putting these seeds in here. Again, starting with the orange. The germination test on this is 90%. So I did mostly single seeds, but I did do a couple with 2 seeds, just a couple though. Just in case something doesn't germinate, then I can separate those out and then fill the empty holes. I don't like to have empty holes in my trays. I'm just gonna take my toothpick and poke them down a little bit so that they're covered. Only takes a moment. You could also sprinkle a layer of vermiculite on top, which is what I do with soil blocks. If I need the seed to be covered, I just will usually sprinkle a layer of vermiculite, but this doesn't say the seeds need to be buried. It just says cover the seed. So I'm just poking them down ever so gently. And then I'll be bottom watering these trays so that the water wicks up from the bottom so that I don't displace the seeds by overhead watering them with my watering can down there. At least until I'm no longer able to do that, which I should be able to do that for many, many weeks, is bottom watering, as long as I have a tray with no holes. All right, just gonna poke that last one down, flip it, and do the pink. I'm gonna get my marker and label this orange. I'm labeling this side pink, and I'm probably gonna print out the official labels, but I'm not sure how long. And this isn't even actually pink, it's called apple blossom, remember, but it feels a little bit too long to write. Oh, this does say, the apple blossom packet does say, it says germination 70 to 75 degrees, 7 to 10 days. So I'm gonna plug in another heat mat down there, move over the Lysianthus that I have on the regular shelf, and I will put this geranium on the heat mats as well. And I will take them out of this holding tray to put them on the heat mat so it has a more direct contact with the heat. Right now I literally have this, it's a humidity dome. Like, it's literally just a humidity dome. I have to get some of my black 1020 trays from the shop. Okay, I'm gonna find where I just put the toothpick. Where did I put it? Why is it gone? Oh, it was underneath the seed packet. Found it. Okay, I'm just gonna push these guys down. And first I'm gonna take the extra apple blossom geraniums and pour them back in. These were just packets of 100, so just use about half of the seeds. Okay. Now, I have to look up exactly what it is, but I know I've read that you can do, like, if you have a vacuum seeder, you can seed like you can seed a tray in like 30 seconds, like a whole, depending on the size. I mean, you can even get like 288 trays, which I would do for like kale, brassica, cauliflower, broccoli, that kind of stuff. That's the size that I grow in. Oh, excuse me. Man, I had lunch in between. Sorry, my stomach was hurting. So I started taking, this is like a sidebar. I started taking iron pills, and then I have a prescription for acid reflux recently, and I take it in the morning and I get really nauseous until I eat something. So I was really nauseous while I was recording earlier, and so I just made myself a delicious salad for lunch. And I feel better, but now I'm yawning. I grow all of my vegetables, or I order in the vegetables, and they're in either 288 trays, 244, 144, or even 512 trays. I grow, or like the peppers and tomatoes, some I will do in 512 trays, which are literally the size of a pencil. The holes in a 512 tray are the size of a pencil. But when I've got a billion customers that all want to grow a roba tomato, that's how many I have. Like, so you take 512 and you divide it by 6, and that's how many 6-packs you have. And I have some customers who buy a whole flat of a certain tomato variety, so you have to make sure that you have enough. I like to have the really popular tomatoes. I like to have a lot, like 15 flats of, like the cherry tomatoes, the beefsteaks, and the Romas. The other more specialized varieties, like the sun sugar or the grape tomatoes or the Cherokee purple, I can get away with having 4 or 5 flats of those because they are not as popular. Everyone comes in and like, I want a beefsteak. I tried to tell them how great Cherokee purple is as a beefsteak, but they don't necessarily always listen to me. They like to grow what they know, which is fine. That's kind of what I've done my whole life, grow what you know. I love to grow what I know, but also experiment with new. Yeah, mix it up a little bit. Okay, that's kind of it. I'm gonna go ahead and bottom water this tray, get it wrapped, and then put it on the heat mats down in the basement, and we'll check in on these guys. And as soon as they start to germinate, I will be giving you guys an update, and we'll take a look at everything else downstairs that is springing to life as we head into the early days of the 2026 season. Okay, we'll see you soon. They're literally in my tub, in a tray, in the tub, soaking up water from the bottom. That's what I mean by bottom water. So these trays, I filled this humidity dome with warmish water, and then set these on top, and they are slowly but surely soaking up water from the bottom.